and you have treasure in heaven, and come follow me. What Bible study course did Jesus get that from? What church growth manual did that find its way into? You're supposed to, in our modern day, in our understanding of how you grow a church, you're supposed to attract them first. You're supposed to get them in and then hit them with the demands of discipleship. Tell them the good news first. Wow them with your programs and your personality. That's not what Jesus did. And brethren, the preacher in me wonders what the other disciples are thinking as they're, and I'm sure they're there. It seems that they're there. We know they're there because they're astounded by this response. They start this dialogue with Jesus afterwards. And who is possible to be saved? So they're hearing, the preacher in me wonders what the other disciples were thinking. So here's my take on a couple of them. Andrew, who John tells us was perhaps, or leads us to understand that was perhaps one of the more evangelistic of the disciples because he goes and he finds Philip and brings him to Jesus. Andrew was probably muttering underneath his voice. He says, "Whoa, Jesus, that's not the way you win friends and influence people in the kingdom. You smile, you sell them on what they're going to get, you bring it, you tell them that their future and what this means to them." Judas, who the Scripture tells us carried the bag and at times had pilfered out, had stolen some of the money out of it. I can imagine he's in the back of his mind saying, "Wait a minute, Jesus, at least get this rich young man to plant a seed faith offering." James and John, who were the more aggressive of the kingdom seekers, at one point wanted to call down fire from heaven onto the Samaritans who refused to acknowledge even Jesus' presence. I can hear James and John say, "Well, there goes this year's budget for the rocket launchers." And you know how I know that I'm sure that's what they were thinking? Because they're us. And that's how we think. One thing you lack. Go sell all you possess and give to the poor. And you have shed treasure in heaven, and come and follow me. And then it says this, at these words, his face fell, and he went away grieved, for he was one who owned much property. Get this clearly. This wasn't simply about, it's just not about detailing the demands of discipleship. And here's how I know this, because I left the part out. I left the part out of verse 21, the very first part of this, where it says, "And looking at him, Jesus felt a love for him." Among all the characteristics and qualities that we need to resolve ourselves for 2010, for 2010, or it should have been ones that we resolved ourselves for 2009 and 2008, brother. But here's one that should top the list for all of us, and that is developing the heart of Jesus. He felt the love for him. That's the New American Standard, which just kind of amazes me, because here the NIV simply records it, simply translates it. He loved him. It was agape. We don't normally associate feelings with agape, and rightfully so. That's usually we reserve for phileo and the eros and all those other Greek loves that they would have here. Agape is this mind, this will that determines to do the right thing. But I think they got it right still. And somehow he looks at this man, he's moved with a love that wants to do something, that wants this guy to get it right. Look, I don't see Jesus here as simply picking on this guy. Out of all the passages of Scriptures in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, we find this one to be one of the most unique in the fact that he would tell this guy that, yes? No. He wasn't picking on him. He wasn't pointing him out as an example and saying, well, you don't have your heart in the right place. No. It wasn't his heart. He looks at him. He loves him. I think he sees the potential there. But he also sees something else. Brethren, in our quest to be true to the Word, to be doctrinally correct and righteous, and to grow a church and to reach out to our community in all of its relevance and in such a modern way, we must never forget that this is about Jesus. It's about how and why He did what He did. Because when we lose sight of that, we lose everything, and we create a world and we create a church that is so unlike Christ. We begin to look like a church that He warned them of in Revelation chapter 2, the church of Ephesus, in which in spite of all the good that they were doing, and they were doing a tremendous amount of good, they had left their first love. Wednesday night we defined that. Our young people, our teenagers, defined leaving their first love. You've left your first love as losing their focus, their passion, and their relationship with Jesus. That's what He wants to know. You can have all these things, and we lined them up, all the things that they were doing, their toil, their perseverance, their endurance, their testing evil men, and all those wonderful things that He said was good. He says, you have this for you, but I have this against you, one thing that weighted all of the other things completely down to the other side. Me. You left me out of the whole picture, the whole scenario. It's a heart. It's a heart that Jesus had for this young man because of the demands of discipleship. And there are demands. Again, it still gets me every time guys, I've said this at least 3 or 4 or 5, 20, 30, 40 times. Let's see, this begins my 4th year. January, this 3rd Sunday of this month, so that means, how many sermons have I preached? A bunch. Well, I've constantly been telling you over and over again that when we get to this part right here, no, that's not it. That's the bread. And that's the fruit of the vine. Where are they at, Dave? Are they back in my office? Those big, hold them up for me. Where are they at? They're contribution plates. You need to see them. There, Adam's got them in his hand. They should be buckets. And fellas, when you stand in here and you talk about a small, this is just a small token. I understand what that means. It is a small token compared to what? To everything that we have. And we just drop in our check or cash or whatever. Gold rings, deed to your house, your cars. No. They couldn't be, even I'd say, and so it's easy for me to say this because metaphorically we could say that's what we drop in there. He gets it all. He gets it all. What Jesus realized that the demands of, now understand this, the demands of discipleship, in which He tells this man to sell everything and give to the poor, and then you have treasure in heaven, and then come and follow me. The demands of discipleship are about staying focused. It's not about being able to say, well, here's what I do, and here's what I've been able to do. I tithe twice, I have all of my stuff here, and I fast weekly, and things like that. That's not what it's about. It's about this relationship that comes, that these demands for discipleship focus us in on what Jesus realizes, that this rich young ruler was focused on the wrong thing. His property, his wealth. Not to say that there's anything wrong with property or wealth. It was his relationship to it. He knew, Jesus knew, that this young man loved that more than he was willing to love Jesus. And therefore it was soul-threatening. He could see it. And so his hard line, demand. Understand something, for the record. This is